Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SB Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Serpentis titled IsMEYE. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen on YouTube, the visualizer. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Just also letting you know that we're going to be giving this song an overall score out of 10 based on various musical criteria at the end, but for now, let's go. Let's do it. Phenomenal sense of drama to it.
Heaven is mine, sinless is mine, endless is mine. I can be a villain if I broken is mine, molded is mine, token is mine. I can be a chosen if I cry, if I die. Am I losing all my mind? Am I losing all this time? Am I losing when I cry? 10 bands on the chains on my mind. Have to feel for my fans, have to give what I sign. Have to give it my half, just give it my all. Diamonds to the chains, they the one that I chose. Buy me. Heaven is mine, sinless is mine, endless is mine. I can be a villain if I broken is mine, molded is mine, token is mine. I can be a chosen if I fall for the cleft, fall to the depths, fall to the freaks that think they know me. If I bask in the depths, changing myself, dwell in a new self, I am growing. Could be anyone else, anything else than this bitch that you go no see. She's an angel in hell, devil that dwells, goddess that shines so true, unholy. I am of silence, the silencer, hint of violence, my science, sir. Could you visit my island, sir? Twist and turn, then deny it, sir. You are Zion, I am science, sir. I am highest of highest, sir. You can't see me, your sight is burned. I could kill you, but I have learned. Heaven is mine, sinless is mine, endless is mine. I can be a villain if I broken is mine, molded is mine, token is mine. I can be a chosen if I melodramatic madness, melancholy nightmare. Damn, I had it. I throw away all this sadness, burned up, shrivel up, fuck this sad. You bitches can think that you know me, don't know shit, cause I am the baddest, I am the fashion, I am the fastest. Fuck your opinions, you bitches been spastic, I'm passive. Run up 2 times, I got a new light, buff got my new shine, find me a new rhyme, rhythm of ribbon, my screams to the midnight, clang, bang, bang, right, slave to the limelight, lay claim to the fame, cause it's mine, right, lay waste to the pain, that's in my eye. If I change up the name, then it's still I. If I change for the fame, then it's not mine. Heaven is mine, this is mine, and this is mine. I can be a villain if I broken is mine, molded is mine, token is mine. I can be a chosen if I. Heaven is mine. Sinless is mine. Feeling if I broken is mine.
It's so fascinating.
Molded is mine. I can be a chosen if I.
Sephiroth 13. I love this. I just need some time to think about it, and we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. And so welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Serpentis, titled IsMEYE. Now in this section we're going to talk about as an overall song analysis. We're going to discuss the various parts and components of it, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my sort of general thoughts on it from a listener's perspective. Before I go any further though, I just want to mention that I gave the song an overall score of 8.2 out of 10, which is very high for me, especially on a first impression basis. It's rare that I give out 8s, but I did appreciate a lot of what was going on here. I thought it was really unique and really cool. And first of all, what do we think this track is about? I'm still figuring that out. I'm not sure. Part of me thinks it's about, again, like they talk about heaven, so like divine religion and sort of spirituality. They talk about how they could kill someone and they could be violent, but they've learned that heaven is like, they're trying to maybe discuss that maybe they know they're above that person, so they don't need to get down into the depths in them. Maybe this could be about their like progression, and I suppose just kind of their vision of who they are and what they want to do with music and what they encompass now. And they're talking about how if they change themselves in order to be successful, like further than like their growth, for example, that they wouldn't necessarily want it. So I think it's about trying to find an authentic way to have success, whilst also not sort of lowering themselves to deal with the people who they could easily take out. And it's like vicious and violent, but also kind of sophisticated in a kind of very sort of artful way. So I think the story is really sort of captivating. The vocals as well, they're a hell of a ride, aren't they? Like, I appreciate the clarity of the flow, the various rhythms we encompass. We're very comfortable on the mic, but there's all these different sort of twisted, kind of like distorted, occasionally discordant vocal layers with various kind of like modulations and harmonies of lower and up, like mid and harmonies and octaves and stuff like that. There's all these really cool techniques from both a production and a performance perspective that are being applied here. And we've got melodies involved here that they harmonize neatly with some of what's going on within the mix, but it's also kind of disconcerting and kind of experimental at times. Like, there's an ominous nature to a lot of what's going on instrumentally here, as well as the force and the kind of tightness and almost sort of claustrophobia that comes from the compression, but that makes it feel like the walls are closing in on you a little bit, but like in a way that I think is done properly and with intent. But I just like the if I like IsMEYE, like the hook lines that are put in there. I like the breathiness of them. I like that we're never letting the listener's attention for granted. We're ultimately trying to provide flavor and melodies and harmonies in there, whilst also showing our abilities as a rapper, and ultimately just really satisfying, a great all-rounder. There's a lot to appreciate from a vocal perspective. So I think that we typically express ourselves in a way where there's like angst and kind of like sort of contempt for those that we're discussing, how we could take them down. But then we've also got a kind of mesmerizing feel to some of the softer sections. So we also change our expression in ways that are appropriate as well to create variety, but also connection to the lyrics within the piece. The track is 3 minutes 32, which is right within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, where if it's less than 2 minutes, you might be missing out on context within a piece, where if it's over 4 minutes, you kind of have to add more to it to maybe peak or maintain interest, because if you have one sort of main theme the entire time, it just becomes a bit sort of like a bit overplayed. In this track, though, nothing is overplayed. From the moment you come in, you just have this ominous kind of like low end with these strings that provide a phenomenal sense of tension there. You feel like you've stumbled into like some really sort of like dangerous place. And the way that the strings rise as well, just this implicit kind of like drama to it there. It's not even necessarily a musical choice, as well as a sort of like it creates this aesthetic of discord there. You know that something's coming, but you're not quite sure what. And then having all these different vocal layers in that first part afterwards, when you kind of have more of the story being told, it just sounds so full of life there. We don't need a whole lot of instrumental elements of percussion alongside it at that stage, because it's more than enough sort of absorbing what that is. I thought that the drums, when they came in a bit later on with the mixture of different sort of 16th, quarter, 8th, as well as triplets, sort of like trappish hip-hop rap elements there. There's enough sub-bass from the bass elements there to not need a whole bunch of push on the kicks, but they are still nonetheless potent, powerful, and stick in the mix, and they create a nice sense of flow. That is just the icing on the cake in addition to everything else at that stage. There are also these interesting kind of things like in the gaps between parts there, which are kind of go between the sides of the stereo field, and from like a percussion repeater perspective, it's just really fascinating. It's like, oh, why are we doing this? And then you kind of get slapped back into the center of the stereo field for the next part afterwards. So we're playing with the listener's expectations as well. It's very kind of like sort of self-aware and considered. I also like that we add additional sort of synth or brass layers in that midsection. We kind of add other elements as we go through the piece to further, again, continue to have the listener's attention, whilst also making it seem more and more intense, like we're escalating in general. You keep thinking you've kind of got it sorted, that you understand what's going on. Nope, there's more, oh, there's more, oh, there's more. And it's just very sort of exciting. And there's even some sort of synth sequences that kind of flutter, and they're kind of less sharp in the mix, but they're a layer which kind of squeezes around there, and it's just very kind of frenetic. And it's just, there's kind of, again, juxtaposition or contrast or a battle between different sides here that's being fought with our own sort of instincts. And it's just, we could have had less and it would have probably been good, but we're spoiled. And it actually pushes from not only a production perspective, but also just the loudness, the tolerance we maybe have for the intensity of certain things as we go towards the end of it, before we kind of move to a sort of percussion focus for the outro, with vocal layers, of course, right, in the credits. But just that kind of release there at the end, we're just holding on. And it's because, I suppose, to move on to sort of more thematic kind of based stuff with the music, we have not only our minors, and we stay most of our time in the minor, but there's also the Phrygian mode in there, and there's some sort of diminished, and it's also the harshness of some of the textures and stabs and stuff like that going on there. It's the discord, kind of discomfort with some of the ways that the vocals overlay, and the kind of, not the harshness, but the kind of the strangeness of it, the synthesis of it. And when we resolve, it is to the minor. So we can tell this is not necessarily going to have a happy ending. It's just very, again, authoritative and powerful. And the music kind of, it doesn't handhold the listener. It's saying, you have to accept how brutal this is in parts, because this is my story and I'm not going to change for anything. In which case that kind of moves back into what we've been speaking about in previous parts, to the lyrics anyways. I do kind of like that near the end we do simplify things with the vocals, the bass and the drums, because it allows the listener to kind of process what they've heard as before the track ends. Sometimes if a song ends abruptly when you've been going up to a huge climax, it can make the listener you can get distracted by literally anything else because you're not in that universe anymore. But just allowing that bit of kind of release there, it's just smart, And so I should mention as well, just there are moments where the percussion pauses as well in certain parts of the structurally, and it's just there's the kind of way things reverberate, because we'll talk about the audio production now, I suppose, the music production. It's stunning, dude. The clarity of the vocals, in the respective ranges, whether sort of modulator with effects chains or not, is fantastic. I like the way they are spread around the frequency spectrum there. Even if things kind of rub up against each other in a kind of an uncomfortable way, it's deliberate. You have, again, the drums nicely side-chained and sort of present within the mix. The bass is just threatening. The synth sequences are kind of filtered a little bit for less kind of presence, but they still kind of flutter there. There are some hits which just go boom, and they sound, again, cinematic, it's an incredibly intense experience. And you've got these kind of other vocal takes or other parts that sort of spread around the stereo field, and those repeaters that I talked about with the triplet sort of patterns, they go side by side in the stereo field as well, and they go backwards, forwards. And because of the way they're filtered without that much low end, you kind of get hit with the bass again. It's bam, you're being told what to pay attention to, not just from a compositional perspective, but also from a production perspective. And I also have been listening to the drums as well, and I appreciate that we're playing a variety of different beats as well. And we play some on-beat and syncopated parts, so we're not just relying on the chord note accents for the kicks and some claps and stuff like that. We play some da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's just, we could have done things so much more simply, but we're just providing that complexity across the board in ways that are not overwhelming in a negative sense. It's awesome, man. And you got subtle rises there that is just so much a compositional thing as a production thing, because it's just the way they're put into the mix is not super duper in your face. It's kind of subtle, but you got that rising, that warbling again with the strings as well, and just, I've got nothing but love for this piece. I don't often feel this good after listening to a track, but I just feel like this is one of those rare and really beautiful situations where I've heard a piece of music and I genuinely vibe with it. There's no applicable constructive critique on my part. I think it's a great song. There's a lot of really positives to appreciate, as I've mentioned. I think they clearly know what they're doing, and they've got a great team working with them, and I wish them all the best. From a general listener's perspective, I mean, I suppose I've given the game away, haven't I? This has been a very positive review. I've got nothing I'd want to change about this. I would happily listen to more music like this in my spare time. I don't necessarily fully understand Saint Serpentis yet, but I would hope that there'd be kind of like evolution throughout the tracks, kind of letting you know more about who they are. And I think that's the most you can ask for. I suppose when someone listens to your piece and wants to know more, you've kind of nailed it, haven't you? It's just that everything else is done well, so that's the icing on the cake. But thank you very much for watching my review of this track from an act named Saint Serpentis, titled IsMEYE. Hopefully you enjoyed it. IsMEYE, is M-E-I-E, by the way, is everything you can see yours? Is that what we're talking about here? Is that the kind of play on words? Just so I didn't have to sort of edit it and readily in post. If I've got that correct, let me know. But thank you for watching my review of this track from Saint Serpentis, titled IsMEYE. I know I said it before. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.